Thank you for joining our Block Leader webinar, Wildfires and Go Kits, Prepare Your Home and Yourself. I'm Laura DeMondon Lee, Block Leader Program Coordinator and moderator for our session. Before we move forward with our agenda, I want to thank you for continuing to look out for your neighbors. It's been a challenging 6 months, and I want you to know how much we appreciate your time and are inspired by your efforts to reach out to your neighbors. In addition to managing your home and your work lives, your good and important work is cherished and should be shared. Just the other week, I learned that one neighborhood successfully helped a lost senior find her way home. Thank you for sharing the good news, Carol. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, including your neighbors, welcome. I'm sure you will agree that your amazing and hardworking block leaders are the reasons why your neighborhoods have become safer and more connected communities that care. Cupertino's block leaders work tirelessly for more than 18 years to acquaint neighbors, gather contact information for neighborhood rosters, organize block parties, safety and preparedness meetings, and more recently, regularly checking in on your most vulnerable neighbors who need food, supplies, and a friendly hello. For those of you who have lost loved ones and are struggling, we are sorry for your loss, and we appreciate your time with us. My hope is tonight's session will help us continue what we've done over the years, look out for others, and build a stronger community. I also hope that you take the time to get yourselves prepared, since we're all staying at home. If you're like me, your closets, corners, and junk drawers have never been so tidy. So please use what you learned tonight and make it your next project. We're grateful for the support of our presenters and panelists. Tonight, we have Santa Clara County Fire Information Specialist, Louisa Rapport, City of Cupertino Emergency Services Coordinator, Tom Chen, Cupertino Citizens Corps Coordinator, Ken Erickson, Jim Oberhofer, radio technical expert from Cupertino Amateur Radio Service, and Al Belletta, longtime block leader representing Cupertino Community Emergency Response Team. To keep us on track, the City Channel will assist with all things technical. Thank you, Pete, Michelle, Ray, and Ted. If you have questions, please submit them anytime during our session. We will answer your questions after each presentation. Click on the Q&A at the bottom of your screen to ask your question. We're also recording the session and we'll post it on the Block Leader page. So let's begin with our first presenter from Santa Clara County Fire Department, who will share updates on the ongoing wildfires and the department's Ready, Set, Go campaign. Here tonight is Santa Clara County Fire Department Specialist, Louisa Rapport, from the Administration and Planning Division's Office of Information and Public Affairs. Louisa began her career at the county as a firefighter engineer. Her work includes development of internal and external department communications, media campaign coordination, community outreach, and events. She is the department's public information officer and serves as the information center manager during an incident. Louisa routinely assists CAL FIRE Management Team 4. She has previously worked in emergency management in the private sector throughout the Bay Area and holds a master's degree in emergency services administration. Welcome, Louisa.
Thank you, Laura, and thanks everyone for being here tonight. I think I just want to reiterate all of your sentiments and our appreciation from Santa Clara County Fire Department for all of the Cupertino block leaders. We've had a long-standing relationship, and I think it's been beneficial both for the community and for our responders in Santa Clara County. I did start my career in Cupertino. I worked at Seven Springs Station on the hazardous materials unit for a number of years. So Cupertino is near and dear to my heart. So I'm glad to be here tonight. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and start my presentation. All right, so tonight I'm just going to go over a little bit about the current state of affairs with wildfires in Santa Clara County and in the state, and then we'll talk about our Ready, Set, Go program. Again, thank you for the introduction. I do share an office at Santa Clara County Fire Department with Fire Captain Justin Stockman. He couldn't be here tonight. He's actually out deployed on a fire in Angeles National Forest, providing some incident technical support down there. So he sends his regards, and I'm sure that you'll see him again in the future. So I want to talk about the last several years, and we all know we've seen some increasingly destructive wildfires. The majority of the top 10 most destructive wildfires in California history have occurred since 2015. And that includes, the well-known Camp Fire in Paradise. And then we've also had some of the largest fires in California history when we talk about acreage. Right now, the August complex that's still burning is now the largest fire in California history. I believe the second largest is now the SCU complex that affected us here on the eastern side of Santa Clara County. We know we've had hotter and drier weather over the last few years. We've had a tremendous amount of our drought-stressed fuels, and we know we have thousands of homes built adjacent to our wildland areas. In 2018, the California's Climate Change Assessment predicted that California would continue to warm and experience increased wildfire activity. And that's exactly what we've seen. And that's been a significant contributor to the fire seasons that we've had. Here in Santa Clara County, we have over 550,000 acres of wildland. Of that, 200,000 acres are what we consider dual jurisdiction. And that means the area was within a local fire district, like Santa Clara County Fire Department's district, but it's outside of an incorporated city. So you also receive a response from CAL FIRE, which is the state's fire agency. And that ensures us the highest level of response into these high-risk wildland areas. Almost all of our wildland areas in Santa Clara County are categorized as either high or very high hazard severity zones, and that's determined by the Board of Forestry. So what this tells us is that no single agency can address this wildfire challenge alone. Locally, Santa Clara County has grown from a primarily agricultural area with homes centered in the valley floor to the most populous county in Northern California. And with that, we've seen an increase in the frequency of fires and distribution of fire areas. So we're seeing fires come down further into the valleys, further into populated areas. As you're all aware, we had two major fires that affected Santa Clara County in August. The SCU complex, which was almost 400,000 acres, again, second largest fire in history. And that affected multiple counties, so there was a complexity there with that fire. The CZU complex, although that did not cross over into Santa Clara County, it was unprecedented fire behavior for that area. It was not something that we have ever seen in Santa Cruz County. And they had to deal with limited resource availability. And we did monitor that closely because due to the weather, we were concerned about it crossing into Santa Clara County. So we know we have the combination of drought-stressed fuels, hotter, drier weather, and urban sprawl into our wildland areas. This has led to these devastating fires in recent years. So the question is, how can we address it as a fire department, and how can you address it as a resident? So right now we're taking countywide steps to reduce our fuels through fuel reduction programs, provide quicker detection and response, so we can identify fires more quickly, monitor weather better, and coordinate our wildfire planning and response. So in the area of fuels reductions, you may have heard of the Highway 17 shaded fuel break. That was a major almost year-long project that we partnered with the Fire Safe Council and CAL FIRE on, and that basically reduced the amount of fuels along that Highway 17 corridor, which provides a critical evacuation route for those residents in the Santa Cruz Mountains, as well as access for our responders. We continue to partner on fuel breaks and fuel reduction projects throughout the county. In the areas of technology, we have the alert wildfire cameras that the public can access, and we use those to detect fires more quickly and identify the location of fires more accurately and allot resources to those fires so we can hopefully keep them smaller than we would without that technology. There is a camera right up on Cupertino Hills that I look at very often, gives a great view of the whole valley floor. So I think we have about 10 cameras right now just dedicated to Santa Clara County. And then coordinated prevention and planning. Cupertino is part of our CWPP, our County Wildfire Protection Plan that provides the framework for our cities and towns to take measures to protect their residents. Locally, so we use mutual aid. Santa Clara County Fire Department is the county operational area coordinator. That means we coordinate all the mutual aid for Santa Clara County. We have dedicated in-county wildland task forces that we can put together and respond to fires within the county. So if one agency has a wildland fire that grows to the extent that they can't manage it on their own, we have resources right here in the county that can respond to that. And then we also have our South Bay Incident Management Team that can provide the command framework for large incidents within the county. So I want to look now at what residents can do to prepare their homes and their families for wildfire. And I do want to take a minute to just kind of comment on the fact that we're talking about this in September, and it may feel like, you know, this time has passed. We should have prepared for wildfire months ago. And while that's the case, yes, we should definitely be preparing for wildfire in the spring and early summer. This has become a year-round activity in California. And so we want our residents to think of this as an ongoing project, an ongoing process, and revisit it frequently. So prior to the 2018 fire season, Santa Clara County Fire Department adopted the Ready, Set, Go program, which is a nationally recognized three-step program for wildfire preparedness. I'm going to walk you through the basics, and then I encourage everyone to visit our website for more comprehensive program information. So let's talk about getting ready. Getting ready centers around two important ways to prepare your home and your property. The first one being creating defensible space, and that's maintaining an area around your home that will slow or stop the spread of fire. And we often talk about this as clean, green, and lean. And the three zones that when we talk about defensible space is so for 5 feet around your home, we want all combustible vegetation and items removed. So even mulch, wood chips, combustible landscaping, if you can keep that away from your home for a 5-foot radius, you have a much better chance of protecting that home in the event of a wildfire. Up to 30 feet away from the home, we're asking that all dead vegetation and branches are removed or trimmed away 10 feet from the structures. And then in a 100-foot zone around the home, we want at least 10 feet of spacing between our trees and our shrubs, and the trees limbed up above the ground level. And what that does is it just prevents one little spark from starting some vegetation, and then what we call ladder fuels, laddering to the next fuel until it gets to your home. So creating defensible space, again, it's something you should do periodically throughout the summer. I encourage everyone to take a look around their home and see what kind of growth they've had over the spring and summer, and then revisit that cleanup. Second is hardening your home. That's the second piece of getting ready. And when we say hardening your home, we mean giving the fire less opportunity to ignite your home. So should a firebrand or a spark land on or near your home, we want to prevent it from making an entry into your home and starting a fire. And with that, we want you to use non-combustible roof materials if you're having your roof redone. We want your eaves and your attic screened. So all of those openings under your eaves, in your attic vents, even in your foundation vents, we want those to have mesh screens on them so they don't allow burning debris to enter. And then lastly, decking materials. If you have a deck and you can use ignition resistant materials, that's great. If you have a wood deck, make sure that you have good housekeeping around that deck. Don't stack things underneath the deck that could burn. Don't keep your wood pile next to the deck if you have one. So keep that very clean and lean. And then also, getting ready includes registering for emergency alerts. So register for Alert SCC alerts and download the Ready SCC mobile app if you don't already have it. And that will ensure that if we need to reach you in an emergency, that you'll get that notification. All right, so once you've prepared your home for wildfire, we want you to start preparing yourself and your family. And that means getting set. Getting set means basically doing exactly what you would do to take steps to prepare for any disaster. That's the best part of this step, is it's applicable to pretty much anything. The first part of getting set is having a plan. Communicate your emergency plan with your household. Know how you would get out of your home and where you would meet in the event of a wildfire. And know more than one way out of your neighborhood. We all tend to come and go from our homes and our places of business the same exact way every day. And we are absolutely creatures of habit. Wildfire is not a creature of habit. It is unpredictable. And so we want to make sure that everyone has 2 ways out of their neighborhood if that is possible. So make sure that you don't just know that one way that you drive every day. Have an out-of-state contact and a plan for everyone to check in with that contact. And I think this is something that probably our block leaders have talked about with disaster planning. It's often easier to get a text message to someone out of state during a disaster than it is to get a phone call to someone next door. So if everyone in your family has a contact that is out of state and you essentially use them as a relay to relay messages, then you can better connect with your family and make sure that everyone is safe. Plan for your pets and your livestock. So how and where will you evacuate them? If you have livestock, this requires a little more planning than if you just have, small domestic pets, but make sure you have a plan for them. And then pack an emergency kit. Make sure you include supplies for everyone in the household. That's food, water, and clothing. And include copies of any important documents, necessary medications, your glasses. Think of what you would need if you were away from home for 2, 3, 4 days, or even a week. And make sure you have that packed and ready to go. All right, let's talk about the last step, go. So preparing your home for evacuation. Now, if you have time, we want you to take a few steps before you evacuate your home. Close your windows and doors and leave your doors unlocked if you're comfortable doing so. So we have a lot of people that ask that question, should I lock my door? It's best if you leave it unlocked because we can then access the home and take any protective measures that we need to, but it's understandable that residents would want to lock it because of security. Remove any flammable window coverings from inside the home. So if you have really heavy curtains, you can leave them up. But if you have light curtains, take them down and put them in the center of the room. We want to take down anything that could catch fire. Leave your outside and your inside lights on. That gives our firefighters the chance to see where your home is and locate it in the smoke. As we know, it gets very dark in these fires. And if we can see where your home is, then we can protect it. Turn off your air conditioning and heater. Make sure that there's no air running that could suck up embers into the system in your home. Move any flammable items away from your house. If you have time, push that barbecue and that tank away from the home. Get rid of any piles of wood or debris that you have. The more you can get separated from your home, the better. And then ladder the corner of your house. And leave out a garden hose, but please don't leave that hose or those sprinklers running. When we have residents that put sprinklers on their roofs or turn their sprinklers on, it draws down the water supply for our firefighters, and it is not particularly effective. So please do leave a hose out for us, put that ladder on the roof, but don't leave the water running. And then just know, dress for survival, right? If you're evacuating, don't go out in flip-flops and a tank top. Take a moment to put on some sturdy shoes, bring a long sleeve shirt or a jacket so you can protect yourself. Call 911 only if it's a emergency. Likely everyone is already going to know that your neighborhood is threatened. So call 911 if you're having an emergency. Don't overwhelm the system otherwise. And then please, please, please leave early. And we'll talk about this when we talk about the alerting piece, but the minute you get that evacuation order or that evacuation warning, please, please leave. It will take you longer to leave than you expect it will. And stay in contact. If you can let an outside friend or family member know that you're evacuating and what your route of travel will be, that will ensure that they can keep track of you. And if you don't show up, they can go to look for you. So let's talk again about evacuations. And I can't stress enough the importance of leaving early in an evacuation. So recently, Cal OES, which is a state emergency system, standardized evacuation terminology for the whole state of California. And they did that to eliminate any confusion as to what this terminology is asking you to do. So an evacuation order means there is an immediate threat to your life where you are right now. That means you need to leave right now. You can attempt to evacuate with your pets and your animals, but make sure that you're not hanging out and going through a bunch of things at home. You're not cleaning things up. It's time to go right now. You do have the right to refuse an evacuation order, but understand that refusing an evacuation order causes our firefighters and law enforcement to dedicate resources to you that we should be putting elsewhere, and it puts us at risk. So we really ask our residents to heed those orders and leave immediately. Now, if you receive an evacuation warning, it means that there is a potential for a threat to life and or property. So it means that you are not currently an immediate threat, but we predict that there may be a threat in the very near future. So during the CZU complex fires, I believe it was on the night of August 23rd, just prior to the second weather system moving in, we did work with the CZU complex team as well as the sheriff's office and issued an evacuation warning that did cover parts of Stevens Canyon, Montebello Road, and those areas of Cupertino. So a lot of our residents actually have received this very, very recently. And so when you receive an evacuation warning, that means that you need to stay informed. And if you need extra time to evacuate, that's when you should leave. For the rest of us, it means be prepared to leave at a moment's notice. Again, if you have pets and livestock or if you feel unsafe, you should leave early as well. And then lastly, a shelter in place. That means that it is safe for you to stay secured in the location that you're in than it is for you to go anywhere. And that may be used if an evacuation is not needed or if evacuating would create a much greater threat than remaining in your home. So one thing I want to say about evacuations for our residents is think about the amount of time it takes you to get out of your neighborhood on a regular day to a safe area. And then imagine if every single person in your neighborhood was trying to do the same thing. So when you're evacuating, remember how much longer it's going to take you. And especially with the element of people being panicked, visibility being very low, and all of the circumstances that surround a wildfire. Now, one more thing about evacuations. So decisions to evacuate are made under unified command. That means the fire department and law enforcement make that decision together. Law enforcement actually conducts those evacuations. So someone going door to door is going to be in Cupertino, the sheriff's office. Evacuation information is going to be shared via Alert SCC, social media platforms for both Santa Clara County Fire Department, the Sheriff's Office, likely the county. And then routes are determined based on the location of the fire. As you can see in the presentation here, I have wildfire evacuation route crossed out. A lot of people want to define evacuation routes for disasters. And unfortunately, because disasters aren't defined, we can't do that. And we don't want people to be tunnel visioned into one specific evacuation route. We want them to make sure that they're aware and that they can find the safest route. And then lastly, if there is personnel available and we're able to do so, law enforcement will go door to door and use a vehicle loudspeaker to evacuate, but don't rely on that method and don't expect them to be able to get to every house. With that being said, make sure you're registered for those Alert SCC emergency alerts. You can register your home phone, your mobile devices, your email address, and your physical address so that you get what we call the reverse 911 phone call. You can also follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor. We're on all of those platforms, and we will provide updates on all of them. You can see all of our accounts there on the side. So the most important thing you can remember is just to stay informed. So I do want to mention a couple special circumstances that residents should be aware of and prepared for when we're talking about wildfire preparedness. And these are really coincidentally applicable right now because we've experienced a lot of them. The first thing is a red flag warning. So a red flag warning is a notice that's issued by the National Weather Service, and it means that the current weather conditions are at an extreme risk for wildfires and a rapid spread of those wildfires. So it's critical fire weather conditions. And typically in Santa Clara County, that means the combination of low relative humidities, very dry fuels, and strong winds. What we saw in August, which was unusual to say the least, was that it actually was low humidities, dry fuels, and dry lightning strikes. So we had very little to no winds, but an incredible amount of lightning. So I'm going to let our partners here show us one of our public service videos that talks a little bit about red flag warnings to give you an idea of some of that information, and then I'll come back with you.
Red flag warning is a warning that's issued by the National Weather Service. There's the possibility of extreme fire behavior because of the weather patterns.
Typically that means that the air is dry, so the relative humidity is low, the temperature is high, and it's windy outside, so that if a fire starts, it's likely to spread quickly. So you want to do anything that you can to avoid starting a fire outside. Things like outdoor burning.
Trying not to use spark-causing tools and equipment like lawnmowers, weed whackers.
And make sure again that your vehicle's in good working condition before driving in areas that are likely to have fires, such as the rural roads around the county.
Moving livestock can actually take a considerable amount of time, especially if the fire is close, because the livestock is scared and often difficult to deal with. So actually moving the livestock before a fire even starts is really the best plan.
When there's a red flag in Santa Clara County, your fire department's looking at things like increasing staffing, potentially putting fire apparatus out on patrol, particularly in high hazard areas. Look at the availability of specialized wildland firefighting resources across the region and make sure that we have the right resources in place should a wildfire start.
All right, thank you. So when we talk about red flag warnings, historically, during red flag warnings, we just reminded residents to reduce certain activities like mowing after 10 a.m. and things of that sort. But now we really want to reframe that with our residents and treat red flag warnings as a sort of pre-evacuation notice. And that means we want people to see that red flag warning and remember that they need to be ready to go to ensure that they have communications. If you have livestock, consider moving them to a safer area for the duration of the red flag warning. take a minute to review your plan with family members and household members. And then if you live in an area with unreliable communications, you may consider relocating temporarily. So if you're up in the hills and you have no cellular service and no other communications, you may want to come down into town, grab a cup of coffee, hang out for a few hours so that you can remain in communications. So the other circumstance I want to talk briefly about is the public safety power shutoffs. And that is PG&E proactively turning off electricity during these extreme fire conditions. The conditions for a PSPS, they're not determined by a red flag warning, but they do use many of the same indicators. So very windy, very dry, very hot. And a PSPS and a red flag warning could certainly occur simultaneously. So for more information on public safety power shutoffs, I've put the link here and the phone number here for PG&E. Understand that PSPSs may last longer than 48 hours. If you are a medical baseline customer, you can get some additional assistance and extra notification in advance of that PSPS. So please reach out to PG&E for those needs. What I do want to note is we've learned really quickly this summer is that it's not only a PSPS that causes us to lose power. So during the last wildfires and the heat wave, a lot of us lost power just because of grid issues and because they were doing rolling blackouts. So it's just a reminder to all of us that whether it's public safety power shutoff, grid issues, an earthquake, we need to be prepared to be without power for at least 48 hours. And with that, I just want to thank everybody for coming in, joining and listening in. I did see one question up, which I'll answer right now. There was a question about defensible space and zones relative to property lines. So for our Cupertino residents that live on properties where their neighbor is, less than 100 feet from their home. The question was, do they need to maintain that defensible space? Is it applicable to urban areas? So the answer is relatively yes. So if you don't have 100 feet around your home, then create that defensible space around what you do have. Because even if we're not talking about a wildland fire, if we're talking a residential fire, and that will protect your home better if your neighbor has a residential fire. So yes, definitely keep that defensible space around your home. If you're concerned about a neighbor's home, there is a weed abatement program through the county, and you can visit sccgov.org to look that up. That's managed through the county itself. So I hope that answers your question, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Laura. So I'm going to answer the next question while Laura's working on her audio issue. So we had another question that asked whether residents can get access to the cameras in the hills. Yes, the answer to that is absolutely. That is the Alert Wildfire Network, and you can go to alertwildfire.org, and you can actually view all of the cameras in the state. Those are publicly accessible, and I definitely encourage our residents to do so.
Great. Thank you, Louisa. Okay, I'm back. I have one quick question because we have some time. Wanted to know, since you've been presenting Ready, Set, Go for a while, is there a most asked question that you get? And what would that be?
So, okay, yeah. So I think probably the most asked questions that we receive is, how will I be notified in the event of an evacuation? And some of our residents got to experience that last month when we had the evacuation warning up in the hills. But the answer to that, again, is through the Alert SCC system, the emergency alerting system, and through our social media platforms. So the best thing that our residents can do is register at alertscc.com, make sure that they have their cell phone, their landline all registered. And then I think second would be people ask, how long will I have to evacuate? if I get an order or a warning? And the answer to that is it depends. So it really depends on the fire, how quickly the fire is moving. Unfortunately, we've all learned from the North Complex fire that came into Oroville just a couple weeks ago, or a week ago, I'd say, that sometimes you have a very, very, very short amount of time to get out. So that's why we really encourage that our residents are ready to go at a moment's notice, that you have communications and that you know what to do. As far as an evacuation warning, know that you have a little bit of extra time, but that if you have specific needs or you need to get livestock or animals out, you should think about going when that warning is issued.
Okay, Louisa, I have 2 more questions written in. In a planned unit development or gated community, how do we create realistic defensible spaces?
Got it. So we actually do get this question relatively often. So the most successful planned communities that I've seen have been those that have like a block leader type program and that work with the community management or homeowners association to set some standards and and kind of communicate to all of those residents what the standards are and how they can reach them. So I think the answer is work as a group, as a team. There's strength in numbers when it comes to this. And so if you're in that planned community and you have a homeowners association, reach out to them, or a management, reach out to them, talk to them about what are some reasonable expectations for our neighborhood and how can we get everyone on board with this.
Okay, thank you. Here's another one, actually a few more. When evacuation order is in place, does the city offer an emergency gathering place for the citizens and provide alternate choices or zones if the main choice is under threat?
So yes, and with that being said, COVID has changed this a little bit. So what we are seeing right now is that there are temporary evacuation sites that are set up. And in fact, Quinlan Center was a temporary evacuation site during the most recent warning related to the CZU complex. And those are sites where you can go, you can get incident information, you can get any resources that you need as far as housing, food, and then you can go off to those other places where you can find shelter or food or whatever else it is you need. You won't right now see traditional evacuation shelters where we use gymnasiums or large areas to shelter people in a congregate setting, because we can't do that safely due to COVID. So what you will see are these temporary evacuation sites where people can go to get those resources.
Okay. I see that one of your questions was just answered when you're addressing COVID. I do want to let the block leaders know that we will have these slides available. So thank you for asking for that. I will post that on our website as well. So know that that is coming. So thank you for that reminder. I think we have time for one more question, and that is, can we have access to a handout for the getting ready for evacuation? Oh, we just talked about that. The handout will be posted. And I think that is it for now. There's one, I don't know, do you see that on the screen, Louisa? First few are important steps to follow after evacuation from home. I think you may have covered that.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say the most important thing to do after you evacuate is let someone know you're safe. So whoever you have identified as your contact or whoever you've told that you are evacuating, get in touch with them, let them know where you are and let them know you're safe. The last thing we want is for family or friends to be worried about you when you're perfectly safe at a temporary evacuation site. And then beyond that, definitely know that there are going to be, if you do evacuate, if your home is affected, know that there are going to be available resources to walk you through the process. And that's through American Red Cross, through FEMA, depending on the severity of the incident, and that those sites will be able to guide you to all of those resources.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Louisa. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so next we will have Cupertino Citizen Corps Coordinator Ken Erickson, along with Al Belletta from CERT and Jim Oberhofer from CARES. Ken will be presenting some of the responsibilities from the city's Office of Emergency Services, and he will also review a little more about the Go Kit.
Yeah, Laura, did you want to have Tom say something at this point?
We could.
Yeah, that would be really great. So everybody gets to meet him and.
Perfect. Maybe the camera can spot on him, City Channel, if we can get your help on that. Tom Chin is our Emergency Services Coordinator, and we'd love for you to say a few words.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time and inviting me here to speak with you. Thank you, Laura, for coordinating this, and thank you to my team here. I'm honored to be joined by Ken Erickson, our Citizen Corps Coordinator, and our key volunteers, such as Jim Overhopper and Al Belletta. We have an incredible volunteer network here in Cupertino, and there's a understanding from afar, from other jurisdictions before I even got here, that Cupertino had a strong volunteer program, and I'm incredibly pleased to see that it's still the truth. And I want to personally thank you all for the last few weeks and months, because I know that it's been a tough time. Laura mentioned it earlier, and in the end of August, when we faced not only a heat wave, poor air quality, a fire evacuation, potential PSPS, every one of you stepped up, and we were able to connect with our neighbors just as the Block Leader program is designed to, and share information, especially with those that are most vulnerable. And it's incredible to see that network work. I think some of the hard numbers that we saw coming back, we were able to reach at least 1,359 of our neighbors, which is incredible numbers that we would never have gotten to door by door, handing out information, especially during this COVID environment. So I want to thank you all for taking the extra step, building these networks ahead of time, and continuing your process in preparedness for individually, but preparedness as a community. And programs like Block Leaders, our Citizen Corps, CERT, MRC, and CARES, these are programs that build true community preparedness. And there's only one way we're going to get through a catastrophic event, and that's as a community. So thank you again for having me. I'm happy to see my team here to share this information that is going to be key so we can integrate together and continue our partnerships as Block Leaders and the Citizen Corps. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Tom. We appreciate your words of encouragement and support. So thank you, Ken.
Okay. Well, thank you. And again, thank you, Tom, for being able to join our city and bring such a big asset to our program. But I wanted to reiterate what Tom had said, is that the block leaders and that neighborhood community development and contact, and have that in place before a disaster happens, is critical. And what you demonstrated, as Tom had mentioned, over the last few months, and it's actually 6 months now, is just been incredible. And so I wanted to say thank you personally, and for also being a resident here. I'm glad to have block leaders in my neighborhood too. Okay, so it's wonderful. But what I wanted to do is just go into a little bit of the preparedness part of it and focus on a couple things. You heard from Louisa more about from the fire and get ready, set, go, and touching into the kits. But I wanted to just go into some of this that we have and what we're thinking about, and why we have what we have in our preparedness kits and what we should be thinking about. So first is, these are pretty much the hazards that we've had, and you've seen these, and we're right in the middle of a few of them. And along with the PSPS, air quality, and the flex alerts, and things that could interrupt power or cause us health concerns and have orange skies. And I hope we all got to see the blue sky in the last couple of days. I kind of forgot what it looked like. But one of the things we want to do is, as residents, we all have a role. And if we can be prepared to be able to address and take care of the basic things before they become larger, and that's where we say, do you know how to take care of the gas and the utilities, extinguishing small fires, communicate, have your supply kits ready to go? Those are the things that we want everybody to be able to do. And you need all of your neighbors to be able to do this. I know your examples in the community of having your kits together and knowing how to do this. And I know you have new residents coming in, and I think we shared a document with Laura that says a little review thing that we should be looking at. What kind of supplies? How do we get connected into the community, the communication systems, and that we have here in Cupertino in place. And we'll hit those in just a little bit. The next thing we wanted to go into is the emergency supplies. Next one. Yeah, and these are the basic things that we should all have in our emergency supplies. And, you know, those are the things that we all have, and we've added in the PPE, and we've all talked about that. So we've got all the face coverings, goggles, gloves, that type of thing to be able to take care of us in the new COVID environment. But I think in listening to Louisa, we have to add into the documents and make sure that our cars are fueled up. So those are some of the things that we need to all have and be ready to go. And one of the things I want to focus on tonight and talk about is the radio and the FRS GMRS that's pictured there. Okay, the next thing that we have with our supply kits, we have the basics, but then you have to customize it, kind of personalize it. What do you need to have for the next 3 days? If you had to camp out in your backyard for the next 3 days, what types of things would I need? Or would like to have, just to make sure that we're comfortable and we can take care of ourselves for a period of time. This is thinking that you can stay at your home, but if you had to evacuate or leave, then that's where you need to think about a little bit different. What fits into your car and where can you go and take with you? Okay, and there's some excellent things online that talk about either from your insurance company or from ready.gov that talk about what is it that you should have if you have to evacuate. And I think Laura mentioned that she'll have that document for you. But primarily in the response in the normal day-to-day, right, we're able to call 911 and we get all of the support we need in a few minutes. We've got excellent support with the sheriff and the fire department and our local public works to be able to take care of the things on a day-to-day. But in the regional event, and that's some of the stuff, either fire or earthquakes or different things that might happen, we want to make sure that we can all take care of ourselves, our families, and use all of the training that we have in our community in total to be able to take care of our neighborhood. Okay, and I know you're all really diligent about doing that, but what that does for us, and you are really becoming the eyes and the ears of the city as something develops. So this is where the city gets the situation status. If something happens, you call 911. In an emergency, either an earthquake or something like that, that information coming from the neighborhoods is going to be a little bit limited because everybody's busy. As you saw that video, everybody was taken off to take care of the fires. So our 911 response might be limited. So we are the eyes and ears to find out what's going on. And if you need to have some additional resources or be able to call 911, how do you do that if 911 is busy? Okay, so the city does have the reporting zones, and you're all very familiar with that. And so this is the system that we've got in place. And you know this, and you know where you live and what reporting zone. There's 6 of them within the city. And you can see where the block leader groups, neighborhood watch groups are within the city. And that's what we want to be able to get your information about what's going on. So the next one, since all of our information comes from our neighbors and our block leaders and all the residents, what does the city manager need to know? And that's where the city manager is going to kind of be flying blind until we can get some information into the city manager's office. And that's where we rely on our residents. Okay. So one of the things that we've done is created a summary report of 5 different categories of what the city needs to know from your neighborhood. And one is, and this is a form that's fillable, and this is something that's posted with Laura so the block leaders can use this. And you can fill in your addresses so that if something happens, you can grab this right out of your emergency supply kits and you can fill it out and you can talk to us and let us know about if there's injuries, if there's structural damage in the neighborhood, any other hazards or access issues that we might need to know in order to get emergency response into your neighborhood. So this is something now we get that information, and then how do we get that information, out? And first you need to be able to take care of yourself so you can get that information. And that's why your safety is number one. And we want you to be able to take care of yourself, your family, and be able to go check on your neighbors and then be able to take care of any immediate issues, since our 911 response in that mode might be delayed. Yeah, okay. But for us to get the report, we need to be able to collect the same information. That's why we use that form that we just showed you with that information on those items. But we're asking you now with your emergency kits to turn on that FRS, GMRS radio, because what we've done is created a way for the block leaders to communicate with the ARCs. In the world of the COVID, we had to rethink about our plan, which was everybody get their reports and then go to the ARC and report them. And we're trying to avoid any other personal contact and social distancing. So we came up with a way for people to safely share the information about their neighborhoods. Okay, so each ARC has been equipped with the FRS radios and a base station. We'll show you what that looks like. We've gone through and tested the different zones, and we have the trained staff so that you can once share your information about the status of your neighborhood. But if you keep that radio on, we'll also have a way of transmitting information back into your neighborhoods that you'll need to know to make your neighborhood more safe or be able to respond better. Okay, so it's a two-way communication that we're going to be able to set up with this FRS radios. This is what the equipment looks like. We've got the little handhelds, and you probably have these in your kits, or not in your kits, but around the house or in your neighborhood. People have these kind of radios. It's very popular. And in each of the ARCs, we've put together a kit that includes a base station, antenna, and these are very powerful base stations so that we can hear these handheld radios from the neighborhoods and get your information. Plus, the base station is powerful enough to be able to broadcast information back out to the neighborhoods. So each reporting zone has one of these setups now, and we can do the communications both ways, just in case you're not able to get to the ARC, which we're kind of discouraging now because of all the COVID. Okay. The next thing is we want to be able to get everybody kind of familiar with what this is. And so we want to go zone by zone and get each group of volunteers, block leaders, to be able to, just a second, technical difficulty. Okay, is to go zone by zone. And then at each one of these zone meetings is to get the folks to either come to the ARC with the radios, or we'll give them radios to work with, get them programmed so you know what to do and how to operate them. And we're also in a pandemic mode. We'll be able to do a Zoom meeting to be able to show you how to do the same thing. So if you want to stay home, you don't have to physically come to the ARC to maintain your safety. We set up the radios, and then we want to do a test to say, can you communicate back to the ARC, and can you hear from the ARC back to your neighborhood? So we're going to be doing some schedules of this zone by zone practice and familiarization. But I believe it's going to be a real game changer for us to be able to add this to our emergency kits, and then for you to be able to communicate safely from your neighborhoods with the ARCs, and the ARCs can communicate safely with you in your neighborhood. Okay? So those are the new thing that we really wanted to focus on with the radio and the kit. And I think those are I wanted to just kind of see if there was any other questions or things that we might be able to assist you with here. Or
Ken,
okay.
We have about 5 or 6 questions, and we have about 4 minutes left. So, yes. So let's go. Well, let's answer as many as we can, and the ones that we don't get to, if I could ask for your help in relaying that back out to the block leaders.
Sure.
If I can do that. Okay, so the first one is my community of senior citizens asked about a reservoir storage unit that holds supplies for emergency events. Is there a map and access processes for these storages?
Yes, and it's pretty much customized for each of the neighborhoods to be able to do that. And you mentioned it was for a senior community. So the needs in the senior community and access would be need to be addressed. So you don't want to have something that's a tub that weighs about 300 pounds that you try to move or get access to, and it becomes very dangerous to work with. So we might have to customize it or get it, a little bit more functional for you to be able to get access to. But we would definitely love to work with you on, some guidelines or helping you get that set up. Okay.
Thank you. You were explaining that we're going to try and eliminate paper because of COVID and running that. So I think that next question has been answered. I, again, will also be happy to share the slides and information, the handouts with this group.
Thank you.
Another question is, what is an ARC?
Oh, yeah, the ARC is it's a center of each one of the 6 different reporting zones that we have in the city. They're broken down geographically so that each zone is no more than a half a mile away from basically the ARC, so that it's easily accessible and in the center or close to the center of that geographic area or polygon that we have in the city. And that's set up to be able to receive information about the status of the community, and then be able to initiate response information back out to the city and get it back into your reporting zone in your neighborhood. So we can send out some more information specifically about what that is and what's inside of it. But I think with this one thing on the ARCs with the radios will be really helpful for us.
Okay, so I'm going to try and combine all these left, the next several questions together, because in the interest of time, we have about 1 minute. What channel on the FRS GMRS will be used for emergencies, and will the city be providing these radios?
Okay, these are great questions. Each reporting zone will end up with its own frequency and communication schedule. That's why we want to do the zone by zone practice to get familiar with that. And so you'll know what all of the different zones are, so that you'll be able to use yours or even contact the one next to you based on where you are. But we want you to be able to communicate. And the next thing would be, yes, the radios. If you need a radio or you don't have one, we encourage you to zone practice, and we'll make sure that you get set up with a some kind of radio communications. And if it's something that's a larger project, maybe Laura, you and I can work together on how do we get more of these radios. Okay.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm going to wrap things up as best as I can, as well as address one of the questions. It's about social media and having seniors and access to social media and signing up for Alert SCC. So yes, we do hope that you can help your neighbors sign up for Alert SCC, that it is so needed. And if you can take care of that for them, we would be very grateful, as well as they would. I do want to tell you, and again, in wrapping up, that the Public Safety Commission is featuring the Block Leader program at its annual Public Safety Forum. The format has changed to 4 separate webinars, and we're invited to their November 12th session, so stay tuned for more information. Again, thank you to our panelists for their time and expertise, especially our first responders. We're so appreciative. The session was recorded. It will be posted on the webpage, as well as the presentations and some of the handouts. So again, once again, please continue to help us spread the word to your neighbors. Stay safe, and thank you for caring. I miss seeing you. Please be in touch, and that's it. Bye for now. Thank you.